Hey, good morning and welcome everybody to My EdTech Life. Thank you for joining us here on this beautiful Saturday. Hopefully you guys, anywhere you are, anywhere you're watching us from, if you are watching us from, from the UK, and you're, I hope you're having a wonderful day, that your Saturday has been amazing. For those of you here in the States, also, hopefully you've had your cup of coffee, you're having some breakfast, you're here to enjoy a wonderful show with a wonderful and amazing guest, a lively guest. And many of you may have seen him, many of you may know him, especially if you are in the GEG community or pretty much anything Google. You have probably heard this name many times through a lot of trainings, probably since March 16th on. And so I am very honored and thrilled to have our wonderful guest here this morning, Mr. Abid Patel. So thank you so much, Abid, for joining us this morning, all the way from the UK. How are you doing today, Abid?
I'm good, thanks, Fonz. It's great to be part of the show. I've been a follower for so long, and you've had some truly amazing guests over the last few months, and this is one of my top shows on my podcast list, and absolutely love it, and honored to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Abid. I mean, I know that this was something overdue. I know it had been a while, but through time zone changes and everything. And welcome everybody that's joining us right now on YouTube. Rachel, Stephanie, Dr. Shad, my coach for VIA 20. How you doing? Everybody, thank you so much. I know you guys are here to support Abid, and I know Abid has a huge, huge following. So thank you guys. And again, this conversation is just going to be just a wonderful and inspiring conversation that we have. I mean, for those of you that are going to get to know Abid today through his story, he definitely has a wonderful and inspiring story from the very first time that I had the opportunity to meet him. And so today he's going to share, his story, a journey from IT technician to Google innovator. And that hopefully we were talking a little bit backstage that hopefully this show and later on if it's rewatched or listened to via podcast player can be something inspirational for those educators that would love to pursue level 1, level 2 trainer, and get all the way to innovator, and coaches too. Don't want to leave the coaches group out as well, but again, I'm just really excited about our conversations, and we welcome everybody's questions and everybody's comments. Thank you so much for being here. Gerardo as well. Thank you. Gerardo, definitely very inspiring. So Abid, tell us a little bit about, let's start from the beginning. I know the title, what we're talking about today is your journey from IT technician all the way to Google innovator. And I know that there's a lot that happens in between. So we'll hit on some of those spots here, as we go on through our conversation. But I know you have a very interesting start to your story as you shared your bio with me. So I'm really excited for people to hear how the Abid Patel journey started. So Abid, tell us a little bit about how now you went from IT technician, Google innovator, and coach even also of the Innovator Academy. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah. It's an interesting, it started off very, very randomly, actually. The way I got into IT, I was always a big fan of IT. Let's not deny that. I think it was year 5, so the penultimate year of primary school, or what you would call, I think, elementary school, in the US. I got using an Acorn computer, and we were doing art on Acorn computers, and I clearly showed the most exuberance and excitement when it came to using the computers, and I think the teacher found that passion in me quite quite quickly. And then after that, it died down because I moved away from that school and uh, moved back to where I currently live now. And those schools didn't have that sort of investment to be able to make in IT. So I went through a few lull years at the start of secondary, high school, and then finally got back into IT towards the end of high school, before starting to select it as a dedicated subject. And computer science at both college and university is very theoretical. And so I always said, and the bit about computer science, the bit I loved about computer science was programming. I loved the programming aspect of it. We did Java, and I loved the Java. I loved to be able to, it was difficult coding, but I loved the fact how you could, just writing all that code and then pressing compile and run and then get hello world on the screen. It's like, yeah, and you think it's not the most fascinating thing in the world at all, but that it's something that I enjoyed. And the one bit of computer science that I didn't enjoy at all was networking, and the theory behind networking. And I always used to say, I will never ever go into the networking aspect of IT. And then lo and behold, my first job was a network technician, and it was really funny how we got into that. My friends and I were in the canteen in university, and uh, one of the staff members, who we'd never seen her before, because university, big place, so you don't see everyone. She came and sat down next to us, and we're a group of about 5 Asian guys, and she said to us, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" And we're kind of there like, who are you? You've come sat at our table sort of uninvited. And she said, we're doing some research as to why there are so few Asian people in teaching. And so we're like, okay. And she's like, I don't want your answers now, but I'd be really grateful if you, in the next half an hour, come to this room and just speak to us and answer some questions as to how, what or why you think there are so few Asian people in teaching. We're like, nah, we're not really interested. We've got more important things to do. Honestly, we didn't have anything important to do. But then she turned around and said, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, you get paid £10." And it's like, for what? And she's like, just answer our questions. Like, wait, what are we signing up for? No, no, no. You just come, and then at the end we give you a crisp £10 note and you walk on your way. We're like, okay, yeah, sure. And so we turned up, and lo and behold, we answered a few questions as to why we felt there were so few Asian people in teaching. And then as we were walking out, they handed us a £10 note. And so as we were walking out, they said, we run this program called the Student Associate Scheme, where you get offered a place at a school, and you just sit at the back of the room and observe for 10 days. You don't do nothing. You just sit there and observe. And it's like, for 10 days, go to a school, be surrounded by annoying children. No. And oh, by the way, you get paid £40 a day. Like, wait, £400? And wait, what do we have to do? No, you just sit there, observe, and take notes for the school day for 10 days. Like, this sounds too good to be true, right? And they're like, nope, that's it. So okay, fine. £400, easy. I'll do with that. And so we turned up, at my what eventually turned out to be my first school that I began working at. And so, yeah, we sat there for 10 days. We sat there for 10 days, took notes, and then at the end you went back to university, and you had an evaluation session for about 2 hours, where you talked about your experience in teaching. And what they wanted to get people excited about teaching. And I'll be honest, I was quite excited, because we saw the best part of the the teaching side. We didn't see the things behind the scenes and stuff. And so it was like, yeah, I'm excited. And so then, as I was leaving that evaluation session, it was coming towards the end of the academic year, and the tutor said to me, I have some extra budget left in my budget for this year. would you like to do an extra 5 days? I'm like, yeah, £200, let's go for that. I'm happy with that. And so we turned out, and it was brilliant because it was the last week of term, and so I spent every day going to a different theme park or fun trips with the school trips with the children, and it was brilliant. And then on my penultimate day, I had this realization that I'm now finishing university, and I don't have a job lined up. I don't know what I'm going to do, and so I bumped into the head teacher at the school, and I said to her, "Look, I've just finished my degree, and I am not a teacher. I haven't done a PGC or anything like that, but I know a thing or two about computers. So if you've got any summer work for me, that will just help me get through the summer before I look for a proper job, then I'd really appreciate that." And she put me in touch with the business manager, and he said, "Yeah, we've got a bit of a project lined up for the summer holidays." And so then they put me in touch with the network manager. Now he was a very lone. I mean, and this is what you'll learn working in IT is a very one man band, lone ranger thing. And he, as soon as the business manager said, "Look, we've got a potential trainee, potential technician here for you on a temporary basis," he was like, "Yeah, no, not too sure about that." And I kind of awkwardly sat in the room with him, and he was supposed to effectively interview me, but he wasn't really interested. So I turned around, looked at him, and said, "So what are you doing?" And he was trying to do something, and he was struggling a bit, and I'd never done that before. But my whole life has been about trial and error. I'm like, why not try this? And he tried it, and it worked. And he was like, "Great, you've got the job." And so then I started on what was a 2-week contract, and so we went through a whole 2-week thing about rebuilding the network. And he was coming towards the end of his career, and he wasn't really a fond of the new Windows Server 2003 system with Windows XP PCs and Office 2003. And I was really interested because I'd never built a live enterprise network before, and so I was like, fully stuck in. And so at the end of the 2 weeks, when school started back up, we had hundreds of teething issues, as you would at the start of a new project. And so the business manager turned around and spoke to the network manager, and the network manager was like, "Look, I don't know very much, but Abid has been following this very closely, and he knows a lot about it." And so the business manager turned around and said, "Okay, we'll extend your contract by 4 weeks." I was like, "Cool, I haven't got anything better to do." So they extended my contract by 4 weeks, and then uh, suddenly there was a technician who'd been there, and I got told by network manager she's leaving to become a teacher or a trainee teacher. But there was one problem: she didn't have the qualification. So um, I was like, "Well, if she can't become the teacher, can I become the IT teacher?" And they're like, "Fine, if she doesn't take up the position, then you can have it." And so then I was all set, ready to become a trainee IT teacher. And then the one of the deputy heads turned around and said, "Abid, we're sorry, you won't be joining us as a trainee." And I'm like, "Oh, why is that?" And "Oh, she managed to get the qualification she needed." I was like, "Okay, fine." Like, "Does that mean her job is available now?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so then I had the most weirdest interview in the world, where they quite literally said, "So what kind of biscuits do you like to have with your tea?" And I was like, "Okay." And then, "What do you think about equal opportunities?" Well, as an Asian person, I think it's really important. And so then they're like, "Yeah, you're hired." And so that's how I kind of started at at my first role, and ended up staying there 10 years. And it was a really interesting it was a really interesting journey, because it was in back in 2004, at a time where IT was kind of just making its way into education. Things were still very traditional. It's all about books. Not every classroom had a PC. Only the special senior teachers had a PC in their classroom. And so they were slowly, more and more, they were getting into the they were getting into that play. And I see Gerardo talk about the biscuits versus cookies. Definitely biscuits for me. And no, Stuart, hobnobs, chocolate hobnobs all the way, the favorite one. But anyway, I digress. So obviously, with IT was starting to make its play in education, and IT was still the big evil. It was the thing that, it never used to work. It was expensive. We don't know what the value truly is. We don't know if we can't afford it. And does it really benefit education the way everyone's saying that this is going to transform everything? And really and truly, we still need to write, and we can't get away from that. And not every child can afford a computer at home, and so therefore it was kind of that sort of beginner lull period. And what eventually ended up happening was that's where the divide between IT and teaching and learning started to exist, where it was kind of like, you know the way you looked at it, who are the management in schools? It's the head teacher or the principal, and then the deputy head teacher or deputy principal, and assistant head teacher, senior head teacher. And so it was kind of like, we read on a forum once that an fellow IT professional somewhere once got told, you are the necessary evil in schools, because we're trying to do everything with the IT and we don't know any of it, so we need you to fix it. But it never works anyway. And so uh, you know um, we really don't want you here, but we kind of need you here, sort of thing. And so that's what created that divide. And one of the ways that I was brought up, having tried to connect with other IT professionals in the community, was that teachers are evil. Teachers are not nice people. Teachers don't respect you. Teachers will treat you like dirt, and so therefore you need to put a brick wall up against them. When they come to you with a problem, it's their fault, and you
Oh,
don't fix it until you've made them sort things out. And it was a very tempting viewpoint, because it suddenly gave us a sense of, we have power over you. So you don't see us as important, but we're going to make ourselves important, because if you go and sack me, who's going to come in and sort it out for you? Yeah, it's like, I'm the man. It's like suddenly you've got an interactive whiteboard and your projector and your computer, and if you can't log in, or if the projector doesn't switch on, your lesson is finished, because you don't have a backup plan. So what are you going to do? And that's when you call the IT guy. Oh, remember that guy that you don't really deal with too well? And so if you're not going to be nice to me in the staff room at lunchtime, okay, fair enough. I'll get back at you in other ways, sort of thing. And so that it caused that divide, and that kind of almost like a hatred, like to get stronger, because um, the teachers are trying to do their job, and we're trying to do our job, and the teachers not understanding what we're trying to do. We're not trying to understand what the teachers are trying to do, and it creates this culture of how things are just not going the right way, and things are never going to develop. Inevitably it's going to blow up in some sort of horrible way that doesn't benefit anyone at all. And as the years went on, I started to realize this. And at the end of the day, I that wasn't in my nature. And having worked there for a considerable number of years, some of those teachers became some of my closest friends, and to this day still are. And you start to appreciate what they're trying to do, and then you're starting to appreciate or they're starting to appreciate what you're trying to do. And so it got to the point where um, the as IT was progressing, education was just falling behind. And I turned up, and I said I tried to talk to our senior leaders and say, look, we're falling very, very behind with our IT. But it was always the last thing that was discussed on the table, and it was the thing that everyone tried to avoid as much as possible. So it was a case of, you're in a senior leadership meeting, and so we're talking about Ofsted, the regulator for schools in the UK. We're talking about finance. We're talking about safeguarding. We're talking about the curriculum. These are things that are inherently important to us, and we understand the importance, and we understand why we need to be really we need to take real importance on these things. And then finally, it's like, well, we need to discuss why we need to buy a new server. It's like, oh, look, we've been here for 2 hours already. The meeting's gone on a bit, and yeah, we're running out of time. So quickly, Abid, can you summarize in 2 minutes why we need a new server? And so you're like, well, I had this whole presentation that was going to take at least 15 minutes. But okay, fine. Look, old server's failing. You need a new server. It's going to cost you £10,000. Oh, no. We haven't got £10,000. Like, and then I eventually came to a realization that why is there always this pushback against IT? And it was because IT was very invisible. No one used to see what we used to do. The only thing that people did see was we used to fix their computers, and we used to change the toner cartridges, or we used to fix the projector or something like that. It's like I'd been working on a project at my first place for like 6 years, and had a huge breakthrough at the end of those 6 years, where I improved the behind the scenes processes, that I could build a new PC and I shortened the time from 2 hours to 25 minutes. And it was like, yes, do you know how hard I've been working this? Do you know how much research I've done? Do you know how much I've worked so hard to get this done? And yet no one understood anything that I'd done. And someone once said, you really are just the glorified toner cartridge changer,
Oh
aren't
my
you?
goodness.
Sort of thing. And so it came to it. That's when the realization hit, where it's like everything we do is so invisible, but everything the educators do is front and center, because that's what schools are about. If I had £1 for every time someone said to me, Abid, where do you work? I work at such and such primary school, or such and such secondary school. Oh, what do you teach? Like, no, I'm not a teacher. Huh? What do you do all day long then? Oh yeah, I'm the IT guy. Oh right, okay. Oh, you must love it. You get summer holiday, Christmas holiday, Easter holiday, inset days. You get this, you get that. I'm like, no, I don't get any of that. Huh? What do you do? What do you do when there's no children nor teachers in school? I'm like, when you come back to school and everything's nice and shiny and stuff like that. That's not the magic fairies that have done that. It's us working behind the scenes. And so what I came to the realization of when I joined my current what is now my current school, and what's part of my new trust, is I joined the school, and honestly, I'd been trying to get a job for a long time. I was at my previous place for 10 years, and I wasn't on a sustainable salary, being a father of 3 children, and the sole breadwinner in my family. And one of the things our fellow global GG leader said on your previous show, Pilly, she got into it because she wanted to get rich, and I certainly had that realization that I now need to get rich, not just want to be rich. I need to get rich, because everyone's got the latest iPhone in their pocket, and I haven't, and I want to be able to get there, sort of thing. And so I'd been applying for so many jobs where I thought, right, this job has my name written all over it. I am dead cert for this job. I'd walk into the interview and I'd walk out. I'd be like, what just happened in there? And I'd be completely shell shocked. And I saw this advert for this role at what turned out to be my current school, is for an IT learning manager. And so I thought, you know what, it's 5-minute walk from my house, and I'm just going to apply. I don't think I'm going to get it, because I don't think I'm what they're looking for, and I'm going to apply. And if anything, I'll get interview experience, because I felt I needed interview experience. And I stutter a lot when I talk, and I especially when I get nervous. And so I thought to myself, that's the one thing, because I used to be really critical of myself. I'd be sat in these interviews, and they'd be like, what's your name? Uh, Abid Patel. And then in my mind, I'd be like, get a grip, get a grip. What's wrong with you? You know, how do you not know your name? And that kind of stuff. And then the whole interview would go through that. And I'd just go into this self-defeating sort of self-destruction mode where it's just like, that's it. I failed. Uh, I'd put myself into the position of the other person sat on the other side of the table and be like, I wouldn't hire you in a million years. You know, you can't even tell us what you do on a daily basis, sort of thing. And so I sat in this interview, and frankly put, it it went like a dream. And it was probably because I wasn't expecting anything to come out of it. I mean, it was a 5-minute walk from my house, and 3 minutes into my walk home, they called me to offer me the job. And the first thing I did was stutter because I was like, no, like, uh, I literally said to her, "Can I get back to you?" And she's like, "Well, you know, all right, fine. We'll give you 24 hours, but we really would like to know." And so then I went home, thought about it, and then called them 15 minutes later and said, "Yeah, you know what? I'll take the job." And so then I walked in, and I saw the disaster of what was at the school, and I'd walk into classrooms and introduce, "Hi, I'm Abid. I'm the new IT learning manager. I'm here to check if you've got any problems. Have you got any problems?" "Oh, no, no, everything's fine." And I'd be looking at a computer in that direction. So it's got blue screen of death on it. I was like, "What about that one over there?" "Oh, yeah, that's never worked. Don't worry about it." It's like, yeah, well, that's my job. I need to worry about it. So I'm here because the confidence in the IT was so low. It was just a case of it where, it never works. It takes forever to start up. It messes up a whole lesson if we try to do something with it. So we just won't bother. And so that's what my next few years became, is trying to rebuild the confidence in the IT. And then again hit the realization of uh, teaching staff not knowing, or at least my managers not knowing what I do. So I realized that they felt this sense of, we're paying someone a considerable amount of money and we don't know what he does. So none of our teachers know anything about the new curriculum, computing curriculum that had just been launched by the government. So you know what? We'll throw Abid into the lesson and he can teach it. And I'm like, "You realize I'm not a teacher, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, but you know IT and you'll be fine." And I'm like, "Well, no, I don't know everything there's not to know about IT. I mean, I've never heard of Scratch. I've installed it, but I don't know how to use it. And yeah, but no, you'll be fine. You can work it out. You just have to read a few books and a few manuals, and you'll be great. Don't worry. Yeah, you've got 3 children of your own. It's fine. You're a natural." And I walked in, and I spent next year extremely uncomfortable, extremely unhappy, because it wasn't my role and it wasn't what I wanted to do. And honestly, I was in such a low place. I was this close to resigning. And then one of the second school that became part of our trust, they went into special measures here in the UK. So they were deemed a failing school, and our head teacher, as an outstanding head teacher, was drafted in to help them. And she decided that she would form the academy, and she invited me to a meeting to discuss what we're going to do with the IT at that school, which was 10 times worse than the IT that was at my school. And so it was a case of, right, okay, fine. And we sat down, we talked to a few things, and then I said to we realized that they didn't have any personnel there. So I drafted a job description, I put it under her nose, and I said, "I'd like you to give me this job, this role across the new Academy Trust, and it's a network manager for the trust, so trust network manager. I'd like you to give me this role, and none of the teaching anymore, because clearly that's not my specialism." And so she agreed, and that's kind of where the journey then really, really kicked off, because I felt like now I was in a place where I had the authority and I could make change, and it was something that effectively no one could sort of question me on, because no one knew what to do. So I was the one who had all the answers. And so I looked at the 2 schools and thought, right, this is a mess. Right, what do we do about it? And I did all the traditional stuff. Let's put 2 new servers in the school, refresh all the PCs and stuff. And it was just the time when Google Apps for Education, as it was known there, was coming about, and Microsoft Office 365. I was like, well, no one's heard of Google Apps for Education. I mean, Google is search and it's great, but look, I mean, EdTech is already a big bone of contention in schools. And so therefore, Microsoft Office 365 is the answer. And that's the way we're going to go, because everyone knows Microsoft, everyone feels comfortable with it. And the one thing that we are so averse to in education is change. And so therefore, I'm not going to stand there and change anything. No, I've already got hard enough a job as it is. So let's go down this route. And I spent the next year doing an awful lot of research, and Google Apps for Education, as it was then, was starting to make huge waves. And that's when the conference Abid thing started, where I started to have the freedom to go to conferences, and I'd turn up at conferences. And the one thing I wouldn't do, I was that annoying guy in the audience who had loads of questions to ask. And it's like, all right, time's up. And the first thing I do is, after we've applauded the guy and all that, I'd run straight up and I'd just ask more and more questions. And I just wanted to learn, and I wanted to connect with these people. And I wasn't doing Twitter at the time, and so there was not that. And even when I started Twitter, my early days of Twitter are complaining to our local supermarket that you broke the eggs in my shopping delivery. So that's what Twitter was about for me. It was all about the complaints, and it was all about trying to get refunds and things like that. And so I'd go about, and even back at school, I'd start to get lots of pushback saying, no, we can't make this change, and we don't feel that this is comfortable. And so then I came to a realization that I need to get the leaders to understand what I'm trying to do. I need to win them over. I need buy-in. I need them to understand why I'm saying what I'm trying to say. There is method to the madness, but you're not seeing that method. You're only seeing the madness. And so therefore you're just like, nope, that's it, cold. And so I was just stood in the corridor, and I saw one of the children run up to the teacher. Miss, look what I did today. Miss, look what I did today. And the teacher was like, oh yeah, this is great. I knew she didn't mean anything, but she didn't want to disappoint she didn't want to disappoint the child. And so the child ran away, extremely ecstatic that the teacher praised him for what he'd done. And I turned around and said, you know what? I need to do this exact thing that I need to do. I need to go and tell my manager, who was the executive head teacher at the time, this is what I'm doing. So I turned up at her office, and I stood there for a good 15 minutes. She was probably wound up that I was wasting her time. But I'm like, today I've done this, and this. But you don't want to know any of that. But this bit I did impacts teaching and learning this way. This thing I did improves the experience for the students this way. This thing I did saves the teacher's time. This thing I did. She's like, okay, fair enough. Thanks for letting me know. It's good. And I continued to do that every day until I annoyed her more. and then about a month or two later, I thought, this is not working. It's not going the way I want it to go. I'm not getting what I need. And so then I turned to Twitter. I'm like, today I signed up for G Suite for Education, and I started using Google Drive, and I'm starting to use Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and seems good. I can use it on any device. I don't need to have a copy of Office at home. I can use it anywhere. I've got my devices everywhere. I don't have to carry around my USB stick. Fine. And suddenly I'm getting hundreds of likes on Twitter. It's like, okay, people are interested. And then I see my follower count from 50 followers, 49 of who were my probably family and friends. Now I've got a teacher who I don't know following me, and I've got this. I'm like, okay, someone's taken interest. Right. Today I showed the teachers how to take a screenshot on Windows 10, Windows Shift and S, and you can drag a box and take a screenshot. Wow, this is amazing, Abid. We didn't know you could do this. Brilliant. Thanks for sharing. It's like, okay, cool. And then I started to tweet more and more and more, just everything. I stopped complaining about the fact that my bread was stale and all of that stuff. And I started to use Twitter as more of a, right, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing on a daily basis. And this is the way forward. And so no one at my school was using Twitter, so they weren't seeing that. And it's like I'm still having those same discussions and those same arguments. Like, how do I win these people over? What do I do? And then one morning it was Monday morning after the half term break, May 2017. The head teacher at the second school in our trust called me and said, "Abid, the internet doesn't work and no one can log into any of the PCs." I'm like, okay. And called me at 7 o'clock. And considering that I only lived 20-minute walk away from that school, I thought, if he's calling me at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm still in bed, something's wrong. Like, this is not right. So first thing I tried to do was remote access from my phone. Wasn't happening. I was like, okay, it can't just be that the internet's gone down because he's saying no one else can log in. And we had a torrential downpour that Friday. The Friday beforehand, we had a torrential downpour. And normally I wouldn't have thought anything of it, but I just thought, I don't know why it came to my thought. I thought, I think something's happened in that server room. So anyway, got up, got ready, walked over to the school, and I went straight there. And the head teacher's standing there, like waiting for me. And I opened the door, and as I opened the server room door, just a gush of water just flooded out onto into the corridor, and we had a floor standing server because there was no space. It was a little tiny cupboard, and there was no space to put the server anywhere. You couldn't put a table in there, so it was a floor standing server, and it was under a good 10 inches of water. And the head teacher just looked at me, and he's like, in utter shock and horror. He's like, "What are you going to do?" And I'm like, "We'll do what we do. We will take out the disaster recovery plan," which honestly there wasn't really much of a disaster recovery plan, but we're like, we'll sort it. Don't worry. Let us be. And I went and sat in my office for a good 20 minutes. Thought, what am I going to do? I have no idea. And so I thought, right, first things first, what I need to do is I need to get everyone back on the internet. And I made some changes with a spare server that we had and managed to get everyone back onto the internet, and said, right, at least you've got internet access here. So the next bit is up to you guys to figure out. I'm going to work on getting some sort of a network back. And so we managed to get a sort of network up and running. But of course, then came the issue of restoring the backup of the files, because that's what everyone is interested in. The one thing that matters is your data. And so it's like, well, this temporary server we put in place doesn't have the space to put your files. It just doesn't have them. But all that Google Drive stuff I've been talking about, well, guess what? You got plenty of space there. Let's just migrate the stuff there. And so I started restoring this stuff to Google Drive, and then we did it. And then it became a case of, well, this is our way forward now. This is how we're going to do digital transformation at our trust. And so then I sat with the leaders and said, this is the way forward. And by the way, at the same time, I went and got a quotation for disaster recovery from a company about how much they would charge us to recover our server. And they said £25,000. It's like, yeah, we're not paying that. And so effectively, I did all of the work myself. And I made sure to put that invoice underneath the business manager's face to say, by the way, this is what we've saved. And so they started to realize that, okay, they started to see that method to the madness. And so that's when the Google journey really, really kicked off. And then I think it was in September of that year, we had this event called the Back to School Summit at Google. And that was the first time I went to the Google headquarters in the UK. And it was a great event being hosted by Dean Stokes, who now is the adoption lead for EMEA for Google for Education. But at the time, he was a director of apps events. And it was the first time I'd ever went to Google. And it's like, you're fascinated by all the food to start off with, and just you've got pool tables and table tennis tables and all sorts of fun and games. And it's like, I want to be part of this community. And at the time, I didn't really know anyone in the Google community. And it's hilarious how when some of us look back, Darren White, he's mentioned it on his podcast a few times. He was there. About 6 people from my London 19 Innovator cohort, they were there. And it's hilarious how that was kind of the one time, the one event that kind of kicked off all of our Google journeys. And then I started to go to more and more conferences because I was like, I want a piece of this. I want to be surrounded by these passionate people. I want to be surrounded by these people who, they look at me and say, Abid, we need you as an IT guy in our school. And I used to say to them, I need you passionate teachers who are passionate about edtech in my school. And I just wanted to constantly be surrounded by these people in their company. And so I'd go to more and more conferences and more events. And it became a running joke on Twitter to say, does Abid ever go to work? Because he's always at every conference. He's always doing, he's always taking, and that's where the selfie stuff as well kicked in. It was at the Bet Show in 2018, and the CEO of the London Grid for Learning, a chap called John Jackson, who's a great guy doing great things in education. I walked up to him just to say hello, and he said, "Oh, Abid, hi, I'm doing selfies today." Snap! I was like, "Whoa, that's not me. I don't do selfies." Like, oh no, sort of thing. And then he posted on Twitter, and like by the end of the day, I had like 50 new followers. I'm like, wow. And then I went to the LGFL office a few weeks later, and they're like, "Oh, Abid, have you got your selfie with John yet?" I'm like, "Is this a thing?" And then it was like, "Okay, John, everyone wants us to take a selfie." Took a selfie, post on Twitter. It's like another 50 another 50 new followers. It's like, okay, the selfie thing clearly is working. And so then as I went to more and more events, it's like, oh, we need to take a selfie with Twitter. And then that's what I realized started to proper kick off the PLN. And I started to form this network of people who I could connect with. I could, just chew the fat with. I could share our highs and our lows, get new ideas from, and I just more and more I would just go to these events as much as possible, just because I wanted to feel good about myself. I wanted to share the story of what I was trying to do. Why is it that in education we are so far behind with the edtech? Why is it that we're so afraid? When I left my old place after 10 years in 2014, we were still running Windows XP and Server 2003 and Office 2003. And it's like, why are we afraid to install the new version? Oh, because it looks different. I'm like, so? When you get promoted, you've been driving a Toyota all your life, and suddenly you've got a lot of money now, so you buy a Mercedes Benz. But it looks different. The indicator was on the left-hand side on the Toyota, and it might be on the right-hand side on the Mercedes. Does that mean you don't buy the Mercedes? No, because you see the value of the Mercedes. You feel that premium, you feel that prestige. So why should we not try to make that move? You don't turn around and say, no one trained me on how to use the Mercedes. You kind of figure it out. And so that's what I was trying to push. It's like, my entire career has been about trial and error. I've never had a formal training course on how to do my job. I've learned as I've gone along. Believe it or not, and this is the one thing I used to say to staff, there is not a self-destruction button on the keyboard. If there is, please show me it, because I'd like to know myself, but there isn't. Honestly, tap some keys. I mean, it was funny when I think it was when my first daughter was born. She was sat on my lap in front of the computer, and she smashed the keyboard with her hands, and the window went semi-transparent. I'm like, how did you manage to do that? Like, how did you make the, she's a 1-year-old, and like, how did you make the window transparent? Because she just smashed it. And I spent the next half an hour doing a Google search, how to make this window transparent, and found out it was a key combination of some sort. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize that. And all she did was smash the keyboard. And believe it or not, there have been times I've just sat there, I've just pressed down the control button and pressed every single key. Like, what does this do? What does that do? What does that do? And then, then I'd share that on Twitter, and people would be like amazed by it and stuff. And then Bet 2019 is when my real turn happened, where people started taking notice of the journey. And I'd be walking through the aisle in the Bet Show with 10,000 people there or whatever, and someone would be like, Abid, and I'm like, who's that? and I look, and someone walk up to me, and it's like, "Hi," and I'm awkwardly like, "Hi," and they're like, "Abid, it's so great to see you. I've been following everything you've been doing on Twitter. It's amazing. You're totally inspirational." And I'm just thinking in my head, I have no idea who you are, but I'm awkwardly like trying to think. And it's like, "Thanks. Oh, by the way, Abid, we need to take a selfie for Twitter." And then we take a selfie, and I'd be like, and they'd be like, "Right, I've got to run, but I'll see you later." I've not even caught the guy's name, but you got that fear, like, I feel like a celebrity. I feel good, people recognizing. And so then Dean Stokes on the Google stand said to me, "Abid, have you thought about applying for the Innovator Academy?" And I'm like, "What's that?" And he's like, Google Certified Innovator, and it's a program where you find a problem in education that you feel needs solving, and we want you to find a solution for it, and that's what the whole academy is. I'm like, "Okay, what do I need to do to apply?" He goes, "You need to have level 1 or level 2 educator." I'm like, "A level 2 educator." I'm like, "I've not done that." And he's like, "Abid, go home now and do it." I'm like, "But that's for teachers, isn't it? I'm not eligible for that." He's like, "You of all people need to apply for Innovator. I'll give you a code. Go home, do it now. You don't even have to read the pre-learning material and all that. G Suite. Go home and do the exam." And so, of course, as soon as he said the word exam, I thought, like, I was terrified. And I literally, and I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. I literally sat there for a couple of weeks and read the teacher center from A to Z, like, because I was so afraid of doing the exam. And I finally sat the exam, passed it, and it was March the 19th, March 2019, when I passed and got my level 1 and 2, and the application deadline for Innovator was April the 25th. And then I bumped into Ben Whitaker at another conference that I went to, and I didn't know who he was. So Ben Whitaker from the Edufuturists, and I just tweeted to say, "I'm looking forward to Kiri Gooch's presentation." So Kiri Gooch works for Google as well, and she was doing a presentation. And I tweeted, and he replied to a tweet to say, "Oh, it'd be great to see you, Kiri. I'm on the BenQ stand behind the stand that you're doing the presentation." So I looked at his profile, and it said Google Certified Innovator. So I was like, "Okay, I need to talk to this guy." So I went up to him, and he's like, "Oh, Abid, it's great to see you." And again, I've never seen the guy before. I was like, "Yeah, it's great to see you too." And so I said to him that, "Look, I'm thinking of applying for the Innovator Academy, but I'm just nervous about the application. Can you tell?" And and he gave me the golden rule, which was, do not, under any circumstances, talk about a solution. We want the program wants you to fall in love with the problem. So whatever you do, don't talk about the solution. That's for you to work on at the academy. And I used that golden rule, and I did the application, and lo and behold, I was successful. And I think that was probably the life-changing moment, getting accepted as part of the innovator community. And I think that community is the most amazing community that you can come across. I think we're at nearly 2,300 innovators in the whole world. So it's considering 7 billion population, it's a very small community, but it's such a helpful community. And the experience of the Innovator Academy, I mean, you've been through the experience, and you've seen all the opportunities that come your way afterwards, and it is totally amazing. And I think that is the one thing that changed my life, because prior to the Innovator Academy, I was starting to try and break out of my shell, but I wasn't the boisterous, "It's me, it's me, it's the AD." That wasn't me. I could never, the any video conference I'd be on, if I was on a Google Meet or whatever, I'd be camera shut, microphone muted, typing in the chat. I couldn't do the in your face sort of thing and stuff like that. And just being part of that, just being part of that community, is being surrounded by these people and being inspired by them. I don't think I could have done a podcast like this before 2019. Yeah, I was starting to break out of my shell. I started to break out my shell in back in university, but not to this level. Like, I knew that the way I looked at it is, if you wanted to get what you wanted in life, you had to shout about it. And I felt like, like, if I had an opinion, I wanted to make that opinion. I wanted to get that opinion across. I wanted to project my voice, make my voice heard. And the Innovator Academy application as well, that is the first video I've ever recorded of myself, ever. Never prior to that have ever had recorded a video of myself, whether it be like a proper production video. I'd never edited a video before. And I was like, yeah. And I that's what sort of changed it for me. That's what it threw me down another path that I'm truly grateful for. And I was able to connect with so many amazing people, and they've inspired me, and they've helped build my conversation, confidence. And yes, what Rachel says there, I was reasonably quiet. I think at that time I was starting to break down, break through that shell. Maybe not quite there, but yeah. Then afterwards, it was all about, yep. You know what? I want to be present. I don't want to be going to these conferences. I want to be presenting at these conferences. I want to be on this podcast. I want to be presenting on YouTube. I want to be at. I don't just want to be the audience now. I want to be the guy who gets asked the questions by the audience. And so that's what it was. And for me, it was all about, I want to share my story. And coming back to the IT managers piece, it's IT management, especially in education and in most industries, is a very, very isolated role. Normally you're a one-man band. I'm lucky to work in a really great team of three of us, but it's something where I've always felt that we've always been so demoralized by what we do. And we used to see being an IT professional, whether it's a technician or a manager in education, as a stepping stone to the promised land of finance, where we're going to make our millions. And I constantly turn around and say, no, you know what? We need to make this our promised land. We need to show what we can do, what value we bring to education. And so that means not breaking, not being that blocker, not hating. And yeah, that's another whole story itself. But I wanted to be the person who showed that what value can we bring to education. And so if we really don't like the children and the teachers in education, then frankly put, we're in the wrong industry. You need to love the industry that you're working. And so that's why you need to be passionate about the teaching and learning, because that is the primary product of the industry we work in. And so we need to show what we're doing and the value that it has in what we're trying to do. And so that's where my project It Just Works came about, because I was like, schools are so afraid of digital transformation, but if anything, we're effectively training the adults of tomorrow. And so the way I always saw it was, we're doing them a disservice if we're not putting the most possible, the most present and futuristic as possible tech into their hands at an early age, so they can be prepared for what is going to be a very heavy digital future. I mean, that digital future has accelerated a huge amount in 2020, but of course, we need to show them that this is sort of the way forward. And so we need to be doing that at an early stage in the safe and controlled environment that is schools. And so digital transformation isn't something we should be afraid of. Digital transformation is something we need to embrace. Digital transformation needs to become the culture of our schools, just like financial stability, just like safeguarding, just like outstanding curriculum is a culture of our schools. Digital transformation needs to be the culture of our schools. We need to stop being afraid of the IT. We need to stop thinking of it as that annoying additional tool that we rely on. We need to stop feeling that we're at the mercy of the IT. We need to start to feel like are able to we are able to control and work with the IT to achieve what inevitably are the outcomes that we want. And so that was what sparked that the whole discussion around my project and the whole ethos around it is I just wanted to share and celebrate the great work that everyone has been doing, pre-COVID. Even there were so many schools that were doing amazing things with EdTech. Now effectively almost everyone is doing great things with edtech, but how do we continue that all those we've made leaps and strides through 2020 and through COVID lockdowns and closures and quarantine as to what a role edtech can play in education. And I that's what I want. I really want to share that story more and more with other IT professionals, because especially those who feel like they're in a dead end position, who feel like they're in a deep hole that they can't get out of. Because I've been there, and I just want to say there is a way out, and there is a way that you can succeed, and you can do something special in education that an awful lot of people globally will be very, very thankful for. Because I'll fully admit I'm not the educator, and there are wonderful educators out there who do those jobs amazingly. I'm the IT guy, and they'll probably admit they're not the IT people, but I'm the one who's there to show them the way of the possible and what can be done, and how IT can really enrich the experiences for our children.
I love that. Like, just that last blurb that you just said there was just something great. I mean, because you are there, you are, in the end, everything comes from the top down, and for myself, even to do my job, I need to depend on IT, and we all need to depend on IT. But I love what you said. Just always being ahead, being very innovative, and even offering those ideas. Once I think many times we just stop learning. Um, you know. eh, Sometimes we wear many hats, but it's important that you always continue your education. And like you said, there were things that maybe you didn't know, but you went out and you searched, you found your PLN, you found your tribe on Twitter, and then look what that led to, making those connections, now global connections. We talked about global GEG, and the way that I met you also is just because of Google Innovator Academy and wanting to apply to that. And similar in, I guess, the advice that they gave you, Micah Shippey, amazing, amazing guy who I follow. He's a Google innovator. I remember I applied for NYC 19, and it was the first time I applied. I had no clue what to do. I thought it was just like a trainer video, that you just do, and I submitted, and then of course you get that email that says sorry, and I remember I publicly posted that on Twitter, but I put myself out there because I said, you know what? I mean, not everybody gets in. I mean, it's a learning experience. I didn't know who to contact. And immediately I got a message from Micah, and he says, "Hey man, I saw what you posted." He goes, "Next time Innovator opens up, like, send me a message." And so sure enough, Innovator opened up again, shot him a message. We met for, about 20 minutes, gave me some insight. But the best advice he gave me: go to Twitter, go to search, type in hashtag Google EI, and follow everybody that comes up on that list. Whether you know them or not, you follow them. And sure enough, I just went click, 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 click. And then, of course, Leslie started the innovator chats, and then you started joining. And then all of the VIA 20 crew that is here, like Pilly, Stewart, everybody, we started just making those connections and really helping each other out, and making this the community that it is. And like you said, about 2,300 worldwide innovators that are out there that are just really sharing their passion and their story. And Abid, I think for myself, you honestly have been one of the most inspirational people that has a wonderful story, a wonderful journey, from where you started to where you're at now, and even to some of the successes that you've had. Because let's not downplay this, but in 2020, EdTech 50 wants to note, you did get a EduFuturist Network Manager of the Year in 2020. And like you said, this community has helped not only you, continue to grow because you're learning from it, but we are also learning from you and from your experiences and seeing the people that have gone ahead of us. So myself, I learned from everybody, that is here, like Steph Rothstein, oh my goodness, Stephanie Howell, Steph Good and Steph Bad, and everybody that's there, Clay, Luis Pertuz, yourself, everybody that is always just one message away of, hey, is anybody doing this or can anybody help? And everybody is there in this community helping each other grow because we understand the value of that connection. We understand the value of growing. And even like you said, not being fearful of the tech, but going out and getting clicky with it, learn it. Don't expect for somebody to just really hand it to you. We continually need to pursue, professional development, personal development, and to continue to grow so those opportunities can continue to come. So yeah, so Stuart is here joining us, and Pili via 20 mates that we had. So amazing. And Gerardo for sure. Gerardo will be applying to as well. Gerardo is an amazing, amazing person. He was on the show, shared an amazing story. Also, so I'm really excited about what is coming. Now, Abid, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about Innovator, because you did talk about your project. I mean, you pretty much your story, like it's amazing. And I'm hoping, like I mentioned to you in backstage, that this episode, whether it's viewed or whether it's listened to through podcast, can help motivate future innovators, people that are interested in becoming Google innovators, because they can see the process. But one of the things that we you kind of talked a bit, mentioning, is just coming out of your shell. And I just really wanted to talk to you a little bit about this, which imposter syndrome. Now, imposter syndrome is a very big term, that it goes around in the, especially for us in via 20. And I know that even for those of you that came before this, that's what we always heard. And that's just that fear of being your worst enemy, in the sense of not putting yourself out there, being fearful of I'm not good enough and things of that sort. And those are definitely things that are very real, that are very, very lively as we went through the application process. And even on the day to day, you may not think about that. But for yourself, can you just talk to us a little bit about maybe some of the that imposter syndrome, that fear, maybe as you were applying for Innovator, what was it that you went through? What were those feelings, and what helped you overcome that? Because I know that this is something that'll be listened to, and people can definitely gain from this.
Well, what I mentioned about when I met Dean at BET 2019, when he said to me, you need to be applying for Innovator, and I thought, when I saw even just the terminology, Google Certified Educator Level 1, Google Certified Educator Level 2, I thought to myself, I'm not an educator. I'm the IT guy who works in education. They're the teachers. They're the real ones who are. I barely see the children. When I see a child, it's because they've forgotten their password, or something like that. And my communication with the child is 2 minutes maybe, whilst I reset their password, and then they go back. And that's probably as much as it reaches out to. So if they see me walking through the corridor, they're fascinated, because I'm the guy behind the scenes who does all the clickety clackety stuff on the computers, and it's the stuff that they enjoy. But that's why level 1 and level 2 weren't for me, were they? Because it's educator. I'm not an educator. Well, no, but you are. You are facilitator of the education. You are an educator. Go home, do the exams. And then even during the application, that's one of the things I said to Ben is when I met him at the Schools and Academy show back in April in 2019, and I said to him, I'm really, really nervous because this is all about education. It's all about finding a problem in education. And honestly, my problem in education is I don't feel like digital transformation is embraced enough, and I want education to embrace it. But everyone hates digital transformation. So I don't know any of these people who are going to be grading the Innovator applications. What if they're all teachers and they don't want to hear about digital transformation? And so, like, really, is that something that we really want to see? And I felt like just watching the videos, past videos, it's like everyone was a teacher, and it's like I'm really not made for this, am I? And he said that's when Ben mentioned to me that, oh, by the way, uh, someone I know who's applying for London 19. He's also an IT manager. His name's Dave Leonard. Shout out to Dave, IT Badger, who did become one of my fellow London 19 buddies. And he said to me, check his video out and connect with him. And we were both lucky to get through. And so he said in a previous podcast that he did was he was grateful for me being there, and likewise I was so grateful for him being there, because there were 36 of us in the room, 34 were teachers, and then
Wow.
the two of us were IT. And I felt that imposter syndrome that everyone else here deserves to be there. And even Dave's problem was all about learning and about students. And so I thought, even you deserve to be here. Mine is literally about the tech. I've come with what I know, sort of thing. And yet what you didn't realize is every other person in that room felt the same way. Every person there felt like, I had Clay Smith in my cohort, and he's now the Google extension legend, sort of thing. It's like, some of the stuff that he's come out with over 2020 has been amazing. And to hear from him about these kind of feelings as well, and then to connect with some of the other amazing people we had on there, and the imposter syndrome. And then Dean Stokes himself, who now works for Google, and he stood up and did a spark at our academy and talked about imposter syndrome. And he talked, and the one bit that he said that resonated with me was faking it till you make it, because I felt that all my career, never having been professionally trained in IT management and stuff. Literally, I've picked it up as I've gone along. I've got a bit lucky with it, and it, it just worked, and that's ultimately it. Is like, I did a few things. Honestly, there were times where I thought, if I click this button, is the entire server going to fail? And then, the head teacher, walk up to me with my marching orders, and because there was no one to turn to. Like, I'd remember when I'd call up careers, I'd call it recruitment agencies when I was looking for a job. And I'd be like, I'm looking for a new job. I've been working in a school, blah, blah, blah. And they'd say to me, are you first, second, or third line support? So are you the guy who answers the calls? Are you the guy who does the really technical stuff behind the scenes? And I'm like, I'm all of those. And they'd be like, shut up, you liar, and put the phone down. It's like, no, you don't realize that, I am the one-man band looking after 1,500 users. And by the way, 1,300 of those users, who are the pupils, are effectively a hacker, because not for malicious reasons, just because they want to brag to their mates that, hey, look, I managed to get past the YouTube filter and I can watch YouTube. And so I'm having to deal with these real life security issues, maybe not, mission critical air traffic control style, but at the same time, it's mission critical to the organization. And so, that's when the realization hit that, that's where I started to understand that imposter syndrome, we all suffer it. And I'll admit, there are still days where I, especially, after Innovator, I went on to become a Google certified trainer. And that's another thing that, I did that very excited jumpy video that you'll see on my pinned tweet, and stuff, and that developed a whole other a PLN thing. But what even when I go into training now, like there, I've been told lots of times when I'm a Google certified trainer and I'm going to deliver Google Classroom training, and I look at the audience, I think they must all think that I'm a total fraud. I've never once taught a day in my life, and so who are you to tell us about this new fangled thing that we really don't want to do, but then you're telling us is sort of the way forward. And so um, there's that's sort of the way that I deal with imposter syndrome. Is you just have to celebrate everything that you're doing and know that whilst you might not feel it, there are everyone else there is probably really grateful for you being there. And that's the way I've handled it. Is I get told all the time, Abid, please help. Is I've got this technical issue and stuff like that. And to me, it's just like, oh yeah, click a few buttons here. But to that person, it's
Yeah.
they feel utterly grateful for what you do, and they're feeling, what you don't realize is they're feeling the imposter syndrome. It's like, how do I not know this? I'm the computing lead for
Mhm.
my school, sort of thing, and I don't know this, and I need to reach out for help and stuff. Whereas for me, it's the opposite. I'm only the guy behind the scenes. I'm not having that forefront impact on the teaching and learning, am I really? But honestly, when you work in a good team and you come together, I think that's what works really well. And I think that's where the PLN thing has really, really helped, because being um, being part of this community, being part of the innovator community. And you mentioned global GG, and the six global GG founders are some of my closest friends. I've not met any of them in real life, well, in person. you know uh the first person I probably connected with was Steph Howell. And what Dave mentions there about Dean's Spice Girls rendition on the second day of the Innovator Academy. And we just started a Twitter banter as to whose academy host did the better musical rendition. And we just started a fun what we ended up calling hashtag epic Twitter battle about which academy was better than the other. And we hit each other quite hard, but at the same time, that developed that friendship, that bond, because we'd both gone through that, what we felt was a life-changing experience. And then I connected with her PLN. I met Leslie through Stephanie, and then she connected through my PLN, and I connected with Stefan. And then we met Luis, who was helping out to do the London 19 yearbook, and then he became part of NYC. And then we met Bonnie through Steph Rothstein. And we got together and spent the good part of the last half of 2019 and the first part of 2020 just connecting every single day, just reliving those wonderful moments of the Innovator Academy, and at the same time sharing all of our imposter syndrome experiences, because they each had a different story to tell about how they felt being in that room, how each of us felt like we don't deserve to be here because there's someone else better who probably didn't get in, and I'm taking their space. And we each shared what we do, and we were each fascinated by each other's story. We each wanted to celebrate what we were doing, and we would connect every day. We probably started talking to each other more than anyone else. And then as soon as COVID hit and stuff like that, we all somehow became GEG members of our local communities. And then we're all trying to do Google Drive and Gmail and Google Classroom training and that kind of stuff. And it's like, why are we all trying to reinvent the wheel at the same time? Let's just all do a same session and put it's out on YouTube, so it's not like it's orientated, we're talking about the same thing. So then, we started doing more and more events, and then, oh, can you add my GEG logo and my GEG logo and my GEG logo? And then the whole poster would be just taken up with GG logos. And I turned around and said, "This is ridiculous. Like, why don't we just call it Global GEG?" And then that sparked from that, and you know, you've seen how much of an amazing community Global GEG has become, how many educators we've managed to connect with, how many of the leaders within Global GEG, yeah. And I'd never heard of the term PLF. I was always PLN, personal learning, and I always used to stress the personal, because people say PLN can mean professional learning network, but for me, I felt like it was a personal learning network. I felt these were my friends. These
Mm.
weren't my colleagues. These weren't people who I only connected with about work stuff. These are people who I shared life things with as well. And when you mentioned the PL, I think it was from yourself once that I heard the term PLF,
Feel left.
personal learning family, and I thought to myself, that is it. These are the people who who really are that. They're the people who mean so much. They're the ones who I connect with. They're the ones who I want to share everything that I do, my successes, my highs, my lows, because I trust these people, undoubtedly. And I think that's what's helped me to overcome, just by being able to have a chat within our group and say, I'm feeling nervous about this training I'm delivering, or I'm feeling nervous about this thing that I'm trying to do. And effectively, those nerves have some sort of imposter syndrome there. It was, the Google trainer thing. I even after Innovator, um, I wanted to be a Google trainer, but I still thought that, look, that means I'm going to have to deliver training on Google Classroom, and I'm not a teacher. And then a teacher might ask me, how can I use these tools to enrich my learning? And again, I'm not a teacher. How am I supposed to tell you that? And it was them who helped me to say, no, some of the stuff you're doing has helped us to enrich our learning in ways like this. I learned from them. I got that support from them. And I think that's what's really, really helped me with get over imposter syndrome. Not that I'm totally over it. I'll still, even like, before I delivered It Just Works in July, that was the launch of my big project. I wish I had one of those heart tracer watches, because I could feel the heart bump beating, bang, 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 because it was like, I was nervous as anything, because this was my big launch and this is what I wanted to do. And so that's for me what it was all about. It was all about connecting with these people and finding, like you said, find your tribe, find that group who will help to support you to get over these worries and fears. And I think that's the way forward, is definitely connect with people. I mean, the Edu Twitter community, the Google Innovator community, the trainer community, these communities are amazing, and they will support you and help you so much through your journeys, whether you're post these big certified statuses, or whether you're at the beginning of your journeys. Everyone has to start somewhere, and if you connect with these communities, it will only bring you success, as far as I'm concerned. And you will only learn, and you will only be inspired more and more and more.
I love it, Abbott. Like seriously, truly inspirational. And of course, this is what Abbott is mainly known for, a lot. This is pin tweet, him breaking out of his shell. And this is him celebrating that he's a Google certified trainer right here. Pinned tweet right there. And the way that you see Abbott here, I mean, that's the way that I've always known him, but other people have said, this wasn't always him. And obviously he states that it wasn't always him, but this is the Abbott that I've grown to know, from the very beginning. Well, not the carbs right there, but follow Abbott, and he is definitely inspirational. And like I said, for a lot of us going through VI 20, definitely, just being able to listen to him and the leadership that you saw at Global GEG also. All of those members, Bonnie, Stephanie, Leslie, Luis, all of those that are here on the website, all the leadership team right here, these people, connect with them, seek them out on Twitter. And then of course you can go here to the current leaders and you can connect with everybody here as well. And we're always a DM away, in a way we will be more than happy to help. And like we always say, if we don't, at least I always say too, if I don't know the answer, I'll definitely connect you with somebody that will help you. And so again, just look up all of our Twitter hashtags, or Twitter handles are all here as well. Make those connections. Don't be afraid. We are definitely always here to help. And Abid, I know we went over on time, but it doesn't matter. You have a great story, and you definitely deserve a place to share your story, because it helps me, as just my my PD that I got here this morning, to just help me continue moving forward. And just so motivating to know, the journeys that go, those that went ahead of us or go ahead of us, the journeys that they go through are similar journeys that we may go through, and learning from how you were able to overcome obstacles will definitely come in mind, when maybe I face a certain situation, and things of that sort. So thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us here on the show. Definitely very inspirational. And like I said, for anybody else that'll be watching, rewatching, or listening, and you're interested in applying for, the Innovator Academy, reach out to us. Reach out to the leadership there at Global GEG. Reach out to any of us. We'll be more than happy to help, because if it wasn't for me reaching out to them, I don't know if I would be here, also part of, the Virtual Innovator Academy, and being a Google Innovator this past year, which through the help of the Global GEG was something that was possible. So big shout out to them and to all the work that they're doing. And they're just continually doing an amazing job. So thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody, guys, those of you that are watching again too, go make sure you check out our site, www.myedtech.life. Check out our site there. You'll find all our previous shows. You'll find definitely our store as well. And if you look up at the top, you'll see where it says contact. Give us some feedback. I'd love to know if this show is, great for you. Give us some feedback on that. Or if you're interested on being a guest and sharing your story, this platform will definitely be the one for you. As the premise of the show is connecting educators one show at a time. And what better way to connect than to truly know the educator story, what they've gone through, how they've grown, to continue to inspire many of us to continue in our journey in edtech or education, or just any journey at all whatsoever. So again, thank you guys for watching. Tune in this coming Wednesday. We'll have another wonderful show midweek. And, thank you so much for all of your support, as we're almost at 1,600 plays on, our podcasts and our listens and our views. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're only like 5 viewers away from 100 on this channel. That's a whole other story. But, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. Abid, any parting words, my friend? Any maybe last words of advice?
I would just say, connect with the people who we've talked about. Connect with those hashtags. And one thing I always say is we hold back so much on what we do in education. And what I always say is celebrate all of the things that you do, no matter how small you think it is. I would say just definitely celebrate every little thing you're doing. And a couple of shout outs I just wanted to give as thanks to people who've really helped me to be where I am today and do the things that I do today. Obviously, there are the Global GG founders who I've said they have been such an amazing support to me. People like yourself as well, all of the Global GG leaders, but some of the UK people who I've had the opportunity to connect with in person pre-COVID. Remember that, Fonz? What a world that was, eh?
Yes.
People who have become really truly special friends to me. There's people like Kat Lamin, who she's doing amazing things with mental health and supporting people, and that was one of the first things that kicked off Global GG, the Global GG staff room, the Mental Health Matters. My fellow leader on GG UK, Darren White, Ranga the Trainer on Twitter, and his awesome VIA 20 project that is supporting so many educators worldwide to get started on their ed tech journeys. And then someone who's probably been one of my biggest supports ever since I connected with her in 2019 is Rachel Cota. And she's become a very close friend of mine, and she's doing amazing things. And her project, Badge Tech, which just yesterday got 9,000 views on the website, 9,000 sessions. And the amount of stuff, that the amount of people who've probably gone through certifications through that website is phenomenal, and so much inspiration. And she's been a great support to me as well. And I could probably take up an entire another show just telling you how many people that I have I've been that have supported me. But I know we've made this what Dave Badger Dave Leonard, or IT Badger, likes to call my super duper bumper edition podcasts that I always do. And so yeah, just thank you to everyone who's helped me along this journey to get to where I am. I'm totally appreciative and ever so grateful to everything you've done to help me. And yeah, just go out there and get inspired, and then inspire others.
I love that. I love that, Abid. And as you can see, guys, just his sincerity. Abid's got one of the biggest hearts, that I would know. I'd probably say he's definitely more blue than anything. And so he's definitely an amazing, amazing guy. So thank you so much again for sharing your story. And all of you that stuck around, this is truly inspiring. This is fuel for us to continue to fan that flame, or if that spark is dimming, it'll continue to light up that spark and just to continue to move forward. So Abid, again, thank you so much. And maybe we'll definitely have maybe another show, maybe do it like a roundtable, and we'll have some more people from different VIA groups, or actually VIA and maybe other cohorts also as well. And we can do a roundtable. I think that would be a great, great show to bring other people along and share their journeys as well. So thank you for sparking that idea. And again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And until next time, my friends, stay techie.